So unfortunately, there's a whole lot of noise out there when it comes to the martial arts in general and self-defense in particular. So when it comes to practical, actually effective self-defense, it can be really difficult to discern the garbage from the real good techniques. There's a whole lot of nonsense labeled as self-defense. What exactly do I mean by nonsense? If you think of a sentence, a bunch of words in a particular order, or especially for English, for example, that is a syntactical language. You need the words in a specific order for them to make sense. Not every language is so dependent on word order. You think of case languages that use grammatical cases, that you can have some flexible word order, can be sort of poetic with the order, and you'll still know what things mean, what part of speech they are based on the ending of the word. English isn't like that. We really rely on the order of the words in order to make sense of the words in a sentence. Right? If the things are out of order, then really that's one type of nonsense, because I won't be able to successfully convey the intended meaning of those words. And sometimes when people try to teach various concepts that have various elements, then if they're not in the right order, they're not in a sort of sequence that's helpful for those trying to learn, then that can present quite an obstacle for those trying to engage that content. But there can be another way that's perhaps more fundamentally problematic when we're trying to teach things or trying to speak. So example, if I have a set of words in a sentence and I chop off the second half of each of those words, well then I'm going to be left with a bunch of half-baked words in a half-baked sentence with really not even a half-baked meaning, because those words will be themselves nonsense, and then summed up together, that sentence isn't going to be able to successfully transmit the intended meaning of the phrase. So I'm going to be left with meaningless jumble of letters. And that's, by definition, nonsense, because it doesn't make any sense. So regarding self-defense and martial arts, this happens a lot. This happens a whole lot, especially online, and really in a lot of schools, unfortunately. So it's really, really important to be able to discern when a school is a good school, when an instructor is a good instructor, and they know what they're talking about, and they can transmit it in a way that's helpful and effective. So maybe there are good techniques in and of themselves that work, that can be successful, but if they're taught in such a way that the greater context is missing, or if they lack the context of that complete system of self-protection, or that includes the technique along with other auxiliary techniques and other concepts and other strategies that are maybe non-physical, things just to keep in mind to prevent or at least to avoid danger, or situational awareness, things like that, then that technique by itself isn't really going to do a whole lot of good. So regarding self-defense instruction in particular, it happens a lot. So especially from the martial arts side, maybe there is a good technique that is effective, that does work. And even if it's pressure tested, it's a successful technique and it's functional and it works. But if it's presented without the greater context of a system of self-protection, right, other techniques and concepts, there's going to be a lot missing there. So often striking arts as a whole will fail to acknowledge grappling and the importance of a core set of grappling skills should you fall to the ground. But then at the same time, a lot of the grappling arts will sort of ignore strategies to avoid falling to the ground in the first place. If we're talking about practical self-defense, we don't want to be on the ground. We don't want to be tied up on the ground. We don't know if there are other attackers. We don't know how things are going to end up. We don't want to dedicate, we don't want to commit to being on the ground and ground fighting. And really most martial arts schools in general ignore the importance or the existence of de-escalation techniques, of situational awareness for danger avoidance and prevention strategies. And so a good defense technique without the proper context of a holistic and integrated system of self-protection, it's going to be that same kind of half-baked nonsense at the end of the day. Or a system that includes things like where to park. What if it's at night? Try to be under a lamppost and try to have the driver's door facing the store when I walk out. Now, I don't want to go so far as many self-defense experts who, perhaps legitimately based on their experience and their negative experiences with martial arts training, with self-defense training in their own history, they conclude that all martial arts is bad. They label all of it as ineffective. They label all of the martial arts in every school and every instructor as bad, as impractical. That's not fair either. No. On this channel, in our programs, and everything that we do, our goal is to show that it is possible and that this is the way things are supposed to be, that the martial arts and effective, practical self-defense can and ought to be fitted together. They're supposed to work together. They're supposed to be a part of each other, really. There shouldn't have to be a trade-off. Right? I shouldn't have to want a sort of sport if I want to train in martial arts. And I shouldn't have to run away from a martial arts school if I want to really learn how to defend myself. No, I should be able to learn real self-defense, real self-protection concepts and strategies and techniques in the context of actual traditional martial arts. Or to present an absolute dichotomy, a trade-off, a choice between the two without any overlap, that's wrong. That's nonsense. The two can and ought to fit together. And our mission will be to prove that to you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, fruitful training, be safe, and have a great life.